By the end of this video, you are going to know everything you need to know to navigate Trinidad and Tobago. You are going to know the island like you're a local.
First, let's talk about how to get into Trinidad. Trinidad has two airports, the Piarco International Airport located in Piarco on the main island of Trinidad, and the AN International Airport located in the town of Crown Point in Tobago. You can fly to Piarco International Airport from over 29 destinations in 21 countries, including the United States, Canada, the Netherlands, and various Caribbean islands. How to get around in Trinidad? The easiest thing you can do is book a hotel that provides a shuttle service to and from the airport, or book a private touring company to carry you around the island.
Before we get into that, I want to talk to you guys about the public transportation system on the island.
Public transportation in Trinidad and Tobago consists of four main options: private and public taxis, maxi taxis, the bus network, and ferries. The most common form of transportation on the island are private taxis and public taxis. These can be anything from a car to a minibus, and they can be any color. Public taxis have license plates that start with an H and are licensed by the government to operate as taxis, while private taxis have license plates that start with a P and are not licensed by the government to operate as taxis. You are essentially taking a ride with a stranger. No, this is the most risky method for getting around the island.
I just want to say something here. I did a lot more research on this particular aspect of, the dangers of using private cars versus H cars. And a lot of the news reports and stuff suggest that criminals in Trinidad and Tobago can apparently just as easily get a car with an H license and, get all the stuff they need to fool you into thinking that they're a registered taxi. So it does not really make that much of a difference.
Public taxis have stands from which they operate that are normally marked by signs that look like this. When traveling with these taxis in Trinidad, you usually pay by the seat. So if the fare from A to B costs $5 TT, that's $5 for your seat. And you share the car with other passengers, unless you tell the driver you want to pay for the entire vehicle. In which case, you would pay for every seat in the car, although prices can vary for different reasons. So you'd want to communicate clearly to the driver where you're going to and get a confirmed price as to how much the trip will cost. The second most common form of transportation are called maxi taxis. These are buses that operate along specific routes, usually main roads. They are color-coded with these stripes to indicate which area they are authorized to operate in. Yellow striped maxis operate in the northern western part of the island, while red maxis operate in the northeastern part of the island. Green striped maxis operate in the central and southern part of the island. Black striped maxis operate in the southern parts of the island, south of the city of San Fernando. Brown striped maxis serves the southwestern regions of the island, and in Tobago the maxi taxis have blue stripes. The third most common form of transportation on the island are buses provided by the government. They are called PTSC buses. They look like this. You can catch these at the many bus stops or at bus terminals on the island. This is the most affordable way to travel in Trinidad. However, obviously, they don't carry you to nearly as many places as the private and public taxis do. The Public Transportation Service Corporation also offers tours of the island via these buses. I'll expand more on this in another video. How to use the public transportation system in Trinidad. This is Port of Spain, the capital city of the country. Staying near the capital is good if you plan to use public transportation because the main transportation hub, called City Gate, is located here. It gives you access to the buses and maxis that will take you to many of the other major transportation hubs throughout the island, and from there you can get to most of the country.
From Port of Spain, you can really access the entire country. It's not just City Gate where you have all the buses and stuff. Nearby, there's a place where you can access the buses to go towards the west, the yellow buses. That's right around that same area is where the ferry to go to Tobago is. And around there also is where you can get the $15 water taxi to go down south to San Fernando. And so really, like if you're in Trinidad, I think the Hilton is around there. The Hilton is very nearby this location. And there are lots of hotels around the Port of Spain area. But if you could stay somewhere near this area here, probably maybe not exactly there, but near this area, right here at the edge of at the waterfront. I think that's what they call it, near the waterfront by Port of Spain. I think that's where the Hyatt is. Really good location if you want to use public transportation. But then if you're staying in the Hyatt, you probably are not going to be using public transportation.
Away from main roads, major towns and cities, the main method of transportation are private taxis. Ask multiple persons to verify that a person is a known taxi driver. Also, it might be best to pay for all the seats in the taxi, otherwise the driver may have to go off the main route to drop off other passengers, which honestly can be a bit risky, especially at night. Finally, there is a water taxi that transits between Port of Spain and San Fernando multiple times a day during the week. So in summary, buses and maxi taxis operate on the main roads that connect the major towns and cities. Private and public taxis provide transport throughout major towns, cities, and highways, and private taxis make up slack where registered taxis don't operate or can't meet the needs of the traveling public. Now we have a basic understanding of the components of the public transportation on the island. Let's dive into prices. The average price of a PTSE bus ride is between $2 and $12 TT for a one-way trip. Maxi taxi fares can range from between $2 and $15 TT. The prices for maxi taxis are generally higher than buses, and route taxi prices also range between $2 and $15 TT. The water taxi between Port of Spain and San Fernando costs $15 TT one way. So based on these prices, there are hardly any routes in Trinidad that cost more than $2. So if you're on a budget, that's really good. Keep in mind, if you're going to use the public transportation in Trinidad, you're going to need TT dollars. Beyond public transportation, you have no options in Trinidad. Ride sharing in Trinidad. There is no Uber in Trinidad, but there are a few ride-sharing apps that provide similar services. TT Rideshare, Already, and Deliver Me TT are the most popular ride-sharing apps. There are also new emerging apps like Trav-E, so there is competition, which is good. There are pros and cons to these services. Reports and reviews suggest they work well most of the time, but there are uncommon issues. Drivers being money hungry is something I've seen. Difficulty in getting rides at certain times of the day, especially during peak traffic hours. Difficulty in getting paired with taxis if you are in certain areas of the country. And if you're an attractive woman, a driver might get a bit chatty with you. But I haven't seen any news reports of crimes against passengers using these rideshare apps in Trinidad. The crimes are usually committed against drivers who usually have cash on them and can be lured to different locations easily. Obviously, the cost of these ride-sharing services will be significantly higher than the public transportation. One of the pros of public transportation is that there are set prices. With ride-sharing apps, every single service charges a different price. It does appear, though, that the average base price for a trip with one of these ride-share services is anywhere between $28 to $45 TT. A pro of these ride-sharing services is that some of them let you pay using your credit card via their apps. TT Rideshare and Deliver Me TT even allow you to pay with your debit card. Renting a car in Trinidad. Trinidad has many car rental options. To rent a car in Trinidad as a tourist, you'll need a valid driver's license from your home country, a major credit card in the primary driver's name for the deposit, and your passport. If your driver's license isn't in English, you may also need an international driver's permit or an official translation, as English language licenses are generally required. Car rentals in Trinidad cost roughly $30 to $50 per day US for an economy compact car, with larger vehicles like SUVs and minivans costing more, typically $50 to $70 US per day or higher. If you're going to be driving in Trinidad and Tobago, there are some things you need to know. As of mid-August 2025, the price of gasoline in Trinidad and Tobago is approximately $7.75 per liter, or about $1.14 US per liter. Roads in Trinidad vary from well-paved highways to narrow, poorly maintained, and winding rural roads that are subject to landslides. Driving conditions can be chaotic, with congested traffic, unlit roads, unmarked shoulders, and a habit of drivers stopping unexpectedly, driving aggressively, and not using indicators. Pedestrians use the roads, and there are safety concerns about highway crimes like bump and rob incidents, especially in Port of Spain. Due to these factors, drivers need to be vigilant. Law enforcement in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad has a heavy police presence due to the high crime rates on the island. The island is currently under a state of emergency, so if you're planning to drive around in Trinidad and Tobago, especially the main island, you're going to run into them. Police officers on patrol typically wear this gray and blue uniform. Senior officers wear beige, khaki, drill, guayaberas, shirts, and trousers. However, from analyzing local news footage, this appears to be how you'll most commonly see Trinidad police officers attired. It seems they swapped the gray shirts for navy blue shirts when on patrol. Traveling between Trinidad and Tobago. There is an inter-island ferry that operates between Port of Spain and Scarborough, Tobago. The inter-island fare between Trinidad and Tobago for an adult in economy class is $75 one way or $150 TT for a return ticket, while premium class costs $150 one way, that's TT, and $300 TT return ticket. Children between 3 and 11 years pay $50 TT for for economy and $100 TT for premium one-way. And senior citizens, nationals 60 years and over pay a discounted rate of $25 TT for economy. To travel with a private non-commercial car from Trinidad and Tobago via the ferry, the one-way vehicle cost is $146.73 and the return cost is $244.58, excluding the driver's fare. You must also pay a separate passenger fare for the driver, as vehicle tickets cannot be purchased alone. There are also daily flights between Trinidad and Tobago provided by Caribbean Airlines. This is an airline jointly owned by the people of Trinidad and Tobago and the people of Jamaica, with Jamaica owning 12% and Trinidad owning 88%. A one-way flight between Trinidad and Tobago costs $40 to $150 TT. A round trip can be from $80 to $300, but prices vary greatly. Guided tours and shuttles. Now, if you're visiting Trinidad and Tobago, especially as a group, one of the best and safest ways to get around the island is with guided tours and shuttle services. Companies like Yak Transportation Services, Alec Taxi Services, TTT, and ABX Transfer Services are highly recommended for their professionalism and comprehensive services. The companies have a lot of similarities with the rideshare services we spoke about before. They're just a lot better and have more options beyond just door-to-door transfers, like guided tours and buses that carry large groups. The price of guided tours in Trinidad and Tobago varies significantly by tour type, duration, and inclusions, with options ranging from around $50 TT to over $200 per adult for a single excursion. Shorter basic tours like the Port of Spain Night Food Tour can be found for approximately $69, while full-day experiences such as the Asia Right Nature Center Tour can cost $230 or more. Prices can also vary by provider and may differ for private and customized tours, so it's best to check specific tour websites for an update on pricing.